Okay, MK Silver Sacks back here with a little bit more of Wargame AirLand Battle. In my last video, you saw a replay of my custom Air Force deck build. In this video, I was going to show you how I built the deck. It's kind of a strange deck, but I realized after playing with it a couple times that if you stick to defensive strategies, it can be a very formidable deck. So I named it USAF Strike Force Alpha. I guess it's a cool name. I don't know. I just named it that. Anyway, so here's how the deck is built. Of course, with the logistics, have forward operating base, FOB. We got Chinook to take some supplies out to the soldiers, and then some capture vehicles. Let's go on to the infantry. Nice force to be reckoned with are the riflemen and the Stinger groups here. Now, since it is primarily an aircraft-centered deck, there is a good chance of having your aircraft shot down, and you want to have at least some sort of force to hold on the ground. So you dig these infantry guys into tree lines and towns and buildings, and believe it or not, they could hold pretty well. The riflemen have some anti-vehicle. They've got the M72s, and then with the Stingers, you also have the opportunity to take down some of the enemy's aircraft. Alright, so going on to support, nothing in there. In tank, nothing in there. And that's because this entire build is based off of more or less air domination. So going on, the recon vehicle, I've only got one, and that is the OH-58C. Actually forms a pretty good recon unit. The only issue with this is it can be destroyed very easily, so you want to make sure that you have it far enough back where it's not going to be getting the heat of battle. But the nice thing is, since it is a chopper, it's pretty mobile. So if you need to move it quickly, you can. You just have to make sure you look out for anything anti-air, even small arms fire. Enough of it can take this thing down. So we got 4 of those in one package here, and of course the cost is 55, so you can get a couple of those out early game. Going on, only one type of vehicle. Have the tow missile jeep here, and again using this as a defensive unit. Dig them into trees, towns. I noticed in some maps, if there's a forested area right next to an intersection, it's good to put these guys there, because usually armor and other vehicle will be traveling along those roads, and you could set up a nice ambush point. Alright, going on. Here's the helicopters. Beginning game, if you want to get some Cobras out there. These things work pretty well. The Hydra rockets have a decent range, and the Vulcan cannon has a pretty awesome range as well. But again, I wouldn't use this all the time. And here's why: unless you have the numbers, like if I were going to put all 6 out at once, the focus of the firing for the helicopter seems to be only in one target or one area. So if you get these guys up towards the front lines, there's a good possibility that even infantrymen are going to just wreck it. So with the helicopters, safety in numbers. And then you get the Apache, nice formidable helicopter, attack chopper. Okay, so that pretty much wraps up the helicopter portion. And then here is the main idea of the build. In this, these are all the planes, all the aircraft that the deck is built on. Started off with Nighthawks. I'm going to come back to these in a second to talk about them, but there's a specific, I would say, way that I like to use these that I think tends to turn them into a fairly good offensive, probably one of the only offensive aspects of this deck. Alright, so first I would like to start off with the A4 Skyhawk. It's weird to have this jet in with all the rest of the units here because, well, let's face it, we don't really use the A4 anymore. I mean, it's old technology, but if you want a bunch of jets beginning game that only cost 30 to get out there in the skies, you could throw 5 of these out there for each Nighthawk you put out. So cost wise, then you get the A10, nice multi-role unit. I wouldn't really put it against anything in the skies. Can it defend itself? Kind of. It depends on what the situation is, and again, safety in numbers in this game. I would say, pretty much keep to using this as close air support, and you'll be good. Again, because it's a slower aircraft as well, I would keep it away from front line and pretty much just use it to mop up any targets that tend to kind of bleed into your AO. Again, more of a support role than it is an offensive attacking vehicle. Then you get the F-16. Decent jet, probably one of the best when it comes to air-to-air that you could have for a U.S. Air Force style deck build. And believe it or not, it has a decent amount of power against things that are on the ground. I wouldn't put them up against too many tanks, and I definitely wouldn't fly them too much in areas that have a bunch of anti-air like Shilkas or SAMs. But if there are troop transports, BMPs, stuff like that, these are great just to pop in there and take out small mechanized infantry. Alright, going back to the Nighthawk. This stealth fighter is pretty much a one-trick pony, and here's why I say this. First of all, it carries one bomb, GBU-10 Paveway. Now, what a lot of people like to do in this game is they wait for visual and before they attack. But with this bomber, what I tend to do is if I see some fire coming out of, let's say, a tree line or from a town, I will actually have it go in and, I shouldn't say blindly fire, but drop the paveway on the general area where I've seen tracers or artillery coming from. And if the enemy is not smart and they don't space their units out enough, one paveway can do an amazing amount of damage. For example, when there were troop choppers next to this tree line, I was pointing on you saw in the last video, drop one bomb and it took out a bunch of choppers and some anti-air, and I think there were probably also some logistic vehicle in there as well. So this is a great vehicle, aircraft, if you know how to use it, and if you conservatively use it as well. I wouldn't say to constantly put it out there and just bomb every inch of the map that you don't know anything about, but if you're seeing some fire coming from a specific area, this tends to mop up some of the mess pretty well. Alright, so my overall style of gameplay with this deck tends to be very defensive. With any of the aircraft in this game, I mean, you lose it, it's gone, and you don't really have that great of numbers. for the aircraft. So in this deck, if you lose your aircraft, you pretty much lose everything. Infantry, you can have them hold their own, but you know, if you've lost all of your aircraft early game and you're just down to infantry, yeah, I feel sorry for you. So the best thing that I found when playing in this deck build is to keep most of the aircraft circulating around your current positions, your AO. Don't really push too much. You can push a little bit maybe with the Nighthawk, but that's if you know it's not going to be taking heavy anti-air missile fire. But you know, once that bomb drops, it gets out of there. I wouldn't have the F-16s or the Warthogs just kind of loiter around in enemy territory because you're going to get them shot down. But this deck is really good as defensive measure, and if you're playing a cooperative against someone who has a formidable ground force with a lot of tanks, basically you're just acting as close air support. And I think it's kind of neat where you can actually fulfill that role instead of having to fulfill a need to have a completely balanced deck. You could actually fulfill a role that is more specialized and requires you to play a specific way. Anyway, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave those in the comment section below. Feel free to also like this video, and if you like this video and all of my other videos, please subscribe. Alright, talk to you guys later. Bye.